Okay, let's talk Hi-Sec Ganking, and hopefully for anyone here or for anyone watching this will also give you some insight into how to avoid getting ganked in Hi-Sec. So starting off, if you guys have any questions at any point, please feel free to interrupt me and ask as usual. If you want to follow along on the stream, not a ton of technical pointing around on the stream stuff. Most of the things I'm going to be showing you guys will be fits that I can just link in Fleet Chat. But if you'd like to follow along there, you're more than welcome to. And anything we need to address before we get started. Okay, cool. So there's different kinds of suicide ganking. Some are what people might consider griefing, or just killing people because you can. We're going to focus this class on ganking for profit. So we're going to be trying to make some dank iskies in kind of what I'm talking about. I don't really get any enjoyment out of other types of ganking, but if you do get that enjoyment, this will potentially help you do that as well if you'd like to. We are going to cover the mechanics of ganking, including Concord and all the consequences. All right, the mechanics, including the consequences, the tools required. We'll be talking about some various fits. They're by no means the end-all be-all of the possible things that you can gank with. The actual steps of a gank, kind of what each one feels like, what it looks like, and then how to avoid ganks for those who may be interested in the avoiding side of this. And then at the end of this, I won't be able to join you guys in doing anything. We're going to do the class part, and then I've got to get out of here. But if anyone would like to either do this with an alt or each other, you're more than welcome to go give that a shot. So let's get going here. First thing to mention is your safety. The mechanics of the safety are basically green, yellow, red. Green will not get you into trouble ever with the law, as it were. Yellow will allow you to get yourself a suspect flag, and red will allow you to get a criminal flag. The consequences of a criminal flag in Hisec are that Concord will hunt you down. If you have not actively aggressed somebody in Hisec, but you do have a criminal flag, if you're in like a shuttle or a pod, you can still move around Hisec freely. So when you have a criminal flag, you can kind of just pod or shuttle through Hisec. But there is no way to evade Concord. There's a reason it's called suicide ganking. You will die every time. So I'll just actually switch over to the game here, undock, and show you guys the safeties. I know probably most of the people in this channel know what this looks like, but for anyone new who may be watching this recording in the future, your safety is right down, come on, here. Next to your HUD down here, this is your safety. There's enabled, partially enabled, and disabled. For suicide ganking, you have to disable the safety. If you are going to partake in suicide ganking, you must disable your safety or you won't be able to do it. Most PvPers will leave their safety in a perpetual state of yellow because there's almost no need to have it red unless you're doing very specific things like smart bombing or micro jump field generating in low-sec. There might be one other thing that I'm forgetting.
Docking permission requested. Docking request.
Can anyone tell if you go red or only once you perform an action?
Yeah, no one can see your safety, so you don't need to worry about like hiding that from anybody. Good question. Other questions on safeties? Okay, so performing a criminal act, in other words, aggressing a ship in Hisec that you do not have the right to attack, will get you a criminal flag, and Concord will kill you regardless of whether you kill them or not. That many times trying to gank a ship, and it's just a little tankier than I thought it was. It gets away, I die. That is a thing that will happen to you when you try this out for the first few times. You won't know exactly how much you can handle in terms of tank. You'll try and take on something a little tankier than you were expecting, and you'll die and get nothing for it. And that's okay, because we're going to be ganking in very inexpensive ships. Questions on criminal flags? Okay, another consequence that's not listed here, but it goes right along with that criminal flag, the actual aggression part of it. Your security status will be lowered when you attack a ship in Hisec. My sec status was 5.0 because I'm a dirty Care Bear just a couple of weeks ago, and now it is 3.9. That's a full point dropped just from 5 or 6 ganks. Once this gets down closer to -1, -2, I believe -2, you're prevented from going into 0.1. Well, not prevented, but Concord will hunt you in 1.0 systems at -2. You'll want to buy it back. And actually, we can go over those mechanics here real quick. It's not super complicated. We're going to go to the market, and we're going to find some clone soldier tags. So yeah, it says right here, given the extraordinary dangers, blah, 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 Concord has taken a firm stance, blah, 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 and will award a security status boost to the person who brings in these tags. They may be handed in at any station security offices in low security space. Basically, you need to find a Concord station in low-sec, go hand in these tags. The different tags relate to different levels of security boost that you need. The most expensive ones are for getting your sec status the last bit up from like -3 to -2 is very expensive. -10 to -9 is very inexpensive. Hopefully that makes sense. And basically you can just buy your sec status back after you trash it from suicide ganking.
Can you farm it back up in nullsec, or can you just
Absolutely, yeah.
tags in lowsec?
Yep, 100%. That would be my preferred way of doing it. If you go out to Hi-Sec and you suicide gank for a little bit, make some change, get your security status knocked down, and then go rat for a little while, get it back up. Yeah, that's absolutely viable. Good question. Other questions about sec status or criminal flags? Okay, we've talked a little bit already about Concord response. It varies based on security status. In low sec, there is no Concord response. In null sec, there is no Concord response. In high sec, the Concord response varies based on security rating. So in 0.5 systems, Concord will be slow to respond. In 1.0 systems, Concord will be very fast to respond. This changes your strategy as the ganker. In low security systems like 0.5, 0.6, maybe even 0.7, you can generally get away with ganking with the Tech 1 cruiser, fit correctly. In high security systems, like if you're ganking in Jita or you're ganking in Amar, you pretty much need to use a Tornado. There are other options, but the Tornado just gives you the most bang for the buck. It's got the highest alpha for the least cost, if you will. And that's because you're basically only going to get off one shot before Concord tells you you've been naughty and jams, newts, and kills you. Questions on Concord response? Okay. Insurance. Don't insure the ship that you intend to gank with. I've turned off the notification. It will pop up if you're a new player and you go to insure your ship, if I'm not mistaken. Essentially, if you are being actively pursued by Concord, SCC does not pay out your insurance contract. So if you suicide gank in Hisec and you have an insured ship, SCC says, nope, you are a criminal. Haha, get fucked. You don't get an insurance payout. So don't insure your ganking ship. It doesn't do anything for you.
What about SRP?
No. I mean, what?
Do it.
Sorry.
Do it. Give us SRP.
No.
This is a training. We should get SRP.
It's a training in which you should be making ISK, not losing it. So go do it right, make ISK. Okay, rounding out our mechanics here. When you kill someone in Hi-Sec that is not a suspect and does not have a limited engagement with you or is not a criminal, they will gain a kill right against you. They can make that kill right available to anybody for any amount of ISK. So they could make a kill right available against you for 0 ISK for the entire Eve population, and anyone at any time can, at will, flag you as a criminal, or not a criminal, a suspect, and then shoot at you. You can see these here. In your character screen, character window, just go to interactions. And go to kill rights. You can see kill rights against you. These are the people that have kill rights against me. This person's not very smart. They made it available for 50 million ISK. No one's going to pay that, especially for the ships that I fly in Hi-Sec. This one, maybe 20 mil. This one, 15 mil, also maybe. These guys haven't made theirs available to anyone aside from themselves. The best way to get a kill right actually used to kill the person is to set the cost low-ish and make it available to everybody. I could claim these kill rights with an alt if I wanted to pay these people this money and just claim the kill right and kill myself with an alt, but that seems unsporting, so I won't do that. Also, I like my ISK, so I'll keep it. Thank you very much. But that's kill rights. They do have a way of getting back at you in a manner of speaking. Just for that ship, Palby. Yeah, good question from Twitch chat. If you're a criminal, it never pays insurance, or just for that ship. Just for the ship that, like I said, I'm pretty sure that the text says, and I'm paraphrasing here, if your ship is lost while you are being actively pursued by Concord, you will not get paid. Questions on kill rights?
I've got a kill right against me and someone activates it. Do they become a suspect when they shoot me, or doesn't affect their suspect status?
You will become a suspect, and when
Yes.
they shoot you, they will get a limited engagement timer with you.
Ah, roger, yep.
So it's very safe for them as long as you are in a ship that they feel safe against. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, I just wasn't sure if anyone could shoot at them if they activated against me, but looks like they probably can't.
Nope, not unless they happen to be a suspect for whatever reason, or someone else has a kill right against them. Like
Yep,
if
roger
they have
that.
a kill right, you could activate it right back and say, aha, now other people can shoot you too. It's the Spider-Man meme.
Yeah, but given Concord's speedy reaction time, I probably wouldn't get that option.
Concord wouldn't be involved in the activation of kill rights.
Oh, okay, sorry, yeah, you're right.
That's actually the last one here, suspect flags, right? So a suspect flag is just other capsuleers have the option to shoot at you freely without Concord intervention. When someone activates a kill right, that's the kind of flag that you get as a suspect flag.
Okay, yep.
Yep, good question, good clarification. Anything else you guys want to ask about the mechanics and the consequences of Hi-Sec Ganking before we get into the rest of it?
Kill rights permanent. Are they only last 30 days?
Yep, 30 days. You can see the timers ticking down in this on this page of your character sheet. So the tools, this is where we're going to start looking at fits. The things that you need are a scout, the actual ship that you're going to gank with, the suicide ship, and then the bagman, or the hauler that's going to pick up the loot. I used to do this with only 2 characters. I'd have a scout, and that scout would actually double as the bagman, so I would bring the frigate that I would use to scout a couple of jumps ahead of where I had my suicide ship set up. When I found a target, I would start booking it back to, towards the system where the target was headed to pick up my hauler with that alt, and I'd get my suicide ship ready to gank them. It results in some rather tight situations where you're ganking a target just as your hauler is maybe undocking. That's one of the spookiest moments of a gank because anybody can pick up that loot. And speaking of consequences, when your hauler picks up the loot, you get a suspect flag, which means that anybody can shoot your hauler. So there's some considerations there about what you should or shouldn't do, and sort of paying attention to the grid that you're on. If there's like a couple of Gnosises sitting there while you gank something, and they keep sitting there after you finish ganking, maybe don't pick up the loot quite yet, because you're going to get a suspect flag on your hauler as soon as you go to pick up that loot. So let's talk about the fits. Look at the scout first. This is one of my fits. I also have a vigil. Basically, I'm looking for any frigate with 5 mid slots. That's all I really care about. Doesn't really matter what kind of ship it is. But the 5 mid slots give you the option to have 2 sensor boosters, a passive targeter, a cargo scanner, and a ship scanner. Those are your important tools. The rest of it's just window dressing. Yeah, good question from Twitch chat. Cargo scanning is not a suspect or criminal activity. You can cargo scan with impunity. The only way to stop someone from target scanning is, ironically, to suicide gank them, which has happened to me before. I've been sitting there with my scouts, cargo scanning haulers that come through, and someone gets upset about it. I think it was a rival ganking group, and they came and, with a catalyst, ganked my scout ship, which was hilarious to me. We can actually go ahead and just run one of these. I'm going to avoid fitting the rigs right now because I'm just going to sell this after this demonstration here, but I'm actually literally just going to undock with this ship from Jita and cargo scan and ship scan some things so you guys can see what that looks like. And so this is actually a viable way to scout ships, is to go to a trade hub and find ships that are undocking from the trade hub, scan them, and then watch where they go. If they go in the direction where you have gankers set up, then you can probably grab them. This is all it is. Just lock up a ship, scan it.
What the fuck, that guy?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. That looks like
No
a good gank
modules
target.
fitted.
He also has a kill right on him, so this is almost certainly a bait ship here. This Badger is bait. He's got a kill right on him. For 4.4 billion ISK. That's what it is.
What does that mean?
That means that you can pay. So a ganker could see this, see all the cargo in there, get excited, notice that there's a kill right, and without thinking, click the, like I just did, click this button to activate the kill right, and click activate, and send 4.4 billion ISK to the alt of this Badger character who made the kill right available.
But could you not just blow this guy up right now?
You could, but that stuff in his cargo is not worth 4.4 billion ISK, even if I did.
But even without, like, couldn't you just blow him up without the kill right?
Oh, you could, yeah, but there's not enough in here for that to be worth it. He also is sitting within dock range and could dock, but yeah, you could suicide gank him, that's true. If you're quick enough and he's not paying attention, that's viable. You would need to confirm that this is enough to make it worth it. And with blueprints, it's actually very tricky to determine if it's actually worth it or not. A lot of these modules that look fancy are probably not, like this large abyssal shield extender, or shield booster rather. Just because it's abyssal doesn't mean it's good, right? It could be complete garbage. Some of these Zigmas, what are they worth? Yeah, a lot less than you'd think, right? So he's filled it with stuff intentionally to make it look enticing, but it's actually not. right? You're just supposed to see faction and storyline modules and get excited, but they're not actually that. Like this one's probably worth almost nothing.
Is that cargo scanner? Does that show everything, or is that just a RNG?
Good question. I'm not actually sure. I think it shows everything, but if someone wants to correct me on that, feel free. And then there was a question in Twitch chat, can you copy and paste it? Yes, we can, so I'll actually try that out here. So, super easy to copy and paste the cargo contents. This guy doesn't have anything exciting. Let's see if anyone else does. This bestower is just undocking. He's just got a bunch of cargo.
Why do they all seem to have 6 expanded cargo hold 2s in their inventory?
Yeah, I don't know why. Bunch of AFK nerds. Okay, we'll just do this. So you go to e-appraisal, you click on the items and containers, click on any of them, or just click at this kind of blank spot down here. Control A, Control C to copy everything. And you can check the price here on e-appraisal. It also gives you an estimation of the cost in-game down at the bottom of the cargo scan window. So this is most of your time spent when you're suicide ganking. This is most of what you're doing, is scanning haulers as they come through whatever location you've selected to camp. And then waiting for that moment when you catch something juicy. So yeah, we don't need to sit here and do this all day. Any questions on sort of the scouting process here?
I see you've made an entire tab just for haulers.
Yes, I have. It's super easy to do. Just make a new tab, call it what you want, and then go to tab presets and deselect all, and then go to ships. And only check, for me, I chose blockade runner and industrial. And that's because those are the two ship types that I'm looking for. Blockade runners can generally be thin enough to break even with a Tech 1 cruiser ganking in lower security space of 0.5, 0.6. Yeah, targets of opportunity, exactly. There's also deep space transports. Those are much tankier. They're actually very tanky ships, and you kind of need a couple of tornadoes to take one of those out. You could also do a couple of T1 cruisers as well. You just need a few more of them. But yeah, they're pretty tanky. Other questions on the scouting process?
I always thought it was the other direction. So you tried to get people coming into Gina. Is that also
You could do that too.
viable?
Yeah, definitely. You could
Just
go
thinking
to
about
the... Yeah, you could go into perimeter, go to the main gate out of perimeter, and watch as people are coming into perimeter towards Jita. And then if you have a tornado, which we probably must have at least one tornado sitting out on this undock, right? Somewhere. Yeah, that Gnosis is probably right where things land. Yep, see him there? This guy's probably suicide ganking. He's right where these ships are landing as they're coming in from... Which gate is that? Yep, perimeter. Actually, all of those gates over there. And it could very well be that orca is his alt, and that orca will tractor in any wreck very quickly, even though it's already right on top of him. Just to be safe, we'll tractor in whatever is there, and sigil. Is he gonna shoot it? Tractor in whatever's there, and then dock, right? Because he'll be within the docking radius of the station. You guys see how this sigil is vulnerable as he slow boats into the docking range of the station? He's obviously not going to get ganked because he doesn't have enough stuff. But that's what this Gnosis is sitting here waiting for. So there's a live example of something happening right in front of us, or potentially happening. Yep, so you'll notice that Badger just docked and undocked. He's looking to bait somebody into shooting at him. Someone new who hasn't been sitting here like we have might see that that Badger just undocked and he's got a kill right on him. Let me ship scan him. Oh, he's got a bunch of stuff. Activate kill right, down 4.4 billion ISK. Would be fun. Cool, so that's the scouting process. Let's talk about some of the actual ganking fits. So we used to have this guy in Flying Dangerous called Pilot. No one knew where he came from. He just appeared. He was there. He never came on comms, never talked to anybody. He would just sit in Hi-Sec and gank people. And this was his fit. I've modified it slightly. He had 2 points and 1 sensor booster. I have 1 point and 2 sensor boosters. I'll talk about why in just a moment. But you can see the idea there is he's got minimal tank, maximal gank, right?
In a Vexor?
Yep, absolutely viable.
I'm getting over 600 DPS from that.
There's a kill linked in Fleet from just last week. Shame the Astra didn't drop, but yeah, that's just with that exact Vexor. So
That's crazy.
This is a little bit about how people who want to haul stuff in Hisec and not get ganked can take some notes here. This is an absolutely useless set of mid slots for avoiding a gank. Just never going to happen. That's going to do absolutely 0 things for you. There are fits for a Tech 1 hauler that can help you avoid a gank from a single cruiser like mine, which essentially consist of as many shield extenders as you can fit on the damn thing. Just that alone, those 4 medium shield extenders, I probably would not have been able to kill him. So yeah, just a note, there are things that can help you against people like me.
What's the cost of that Vexor?
About 20 mil? Let me look it up. You can just simulate fitting, by the way. I'll give you the answer. 28.
What would be, if you were doing this, what would be your your minimum value that you would gank?
Yeah, great question. So I was going to get to that. Thank you. So it depends on how frustrated you are. If you're sitting there like, damn, I've been doing this for a long time. I haven't found anything. And then something comes by with 100 mil in the cargo. You might just be tired enough to just go for it. I personally kind of set my own threshold at like 200 mil. It kind of makes it worth it. Anything above that obviously is just gravy. Yeah. You also have to consider that the loot fairy will say no a lot of the time. In this case, that's exactly what happened. Right, just a couple of modules and some fuel blocks dropped, and that was it.
Do you tier shuttles or tier 1 exploits as well, or you mostly just go for industrials?
Your mic is busted, dude.
That's okay. No, he's in the car. Yes, I do ship scan or cargo scan anything that I can get my hands on as it's coming through the gate. I have not ever had success scanning anything other than a T1 industrial and seeing something juicy in it, though. Obviously, freighters are an option, but not for a solo person like me. Obviously, deep space transports are an option, but again, not if you're solo like I am. I actually these days run with 4 accounts doing this. I have 2 scouts, one on either end of a pipe, and then my hauler is a dedicated pilot, and my ganking ship is a dedicated pilot. I could upgrade to a tornado, but it's kind of not necessary. And it's 2 or 3 times more ISK. I think over 3 times more ISK, almost 4 times more than the Vexer. Limits your options. You can definitely do this with a tornado and sort of increase your options, right? That 4 shield extender fit that I showed you guys would probably not survive against a tornado. So that's an option if you want to be able to take down things that are fit to avoid the T1 cruisers. That is a rupture that I made. Same idea, right? Lots of gank, very little tank. So let's talk about points and sensor boosters. And actually, someone in just before we get to that, someone in Twitch chat just asked, not even good align speed, as in, will good align time help them avoid me? No, not really. As unless they're insta warp, I'm probably gonna be able to catch them. It's very difficult to make most haulers insta warp. The wreath can do it. So if you guys are ganking, you'll notice that wreaths warp really fast. In general, as long as they're fit with just a little bit of speed in mind, they'll very often get past your scout without even getting cargo scanned. One thing to note, I can find him. Yeah, this guy, micro warp drive cloaked past my scout. I didn't get a scan on what he was carrying, but the fact that he saw my frigate there and assumed that it was a ganking scout, and he decided to MWD cloak to get past the scout without getting scanned, told me he probably had something juicy in the cargo. When he came out to the system where I was camping in Pointed, he didn't think to micro warp drive cloak past the rupture for some reason, and I just shot him blind. I didn't know it was in the cargo, but I guessed correctly, so that's just another tidbit there, I suppose. If people look like they're hiding something, generally they're probably hiding something. And I guess a note to, anyone who would want to stay safe from that, just because you got past the scout doesn't mean that they're not going to gank you anyway. So keep doing the MWD cloak trick. That's actually a great method to avoid getting ganked, is getting proficient at MWD cloak. And if you do it right, you really should be impervious to ganks. Again, if you do it right. The only time you're going to have someone outsmart you with that is if they have an interceptor ready to get a decloak on you before your micro warp drive cycle gets close to finishing. I would recommend just hopping over to Zkill, looking up, I'll just do this. Go to Zkill, go to the advanced search for industrial, the group. Select the ganked tag at the top there. And then you can see what other people use for their ganking. So a lot of these guys are 5- and 6-man groups doing ganking. If you change it to solo, you can see what people do on their own. Solo, there it is. Oh, it's not going to tag it. Okay, that's fine. That works too, solo and Hi-Sec. They can't tag it as both solo and ganked, so this is what that looks like. So this person's using a Vexer as well. You could go and look at their losses and see their Vexer fit. This person's ganking in a Mar, so they're almost certainly going to be using a Tornado. Yep, there it is. And you could go look at their losses and see their Tornado fit. You'll see this person a lot, actually. If you look down this list, Potato the Cake, at least recently, super active in a Mar. Right, you see that icon all the way down? Castle Kickers Ltd. So there's some research tactics for you guys to go find fits that you might want to try using for this. And then the last thing to talk about is the bagman and kind of how the bagman needs to be fit. There's, again, a lot of options for this. The thing to keep in mind, though, is that the bagman is the most vulnerable part of the operation. I have lost haulers doing Hi-Sec Ganking before, because you pick up the loot, you get flagged as suspect, and Good Samaritans coming by can make you have a bad day. I've actually lost an Occator doing that, so you can lose, expensive stuff if you decide to go with the expensive stuff. I actually survived an attempt on my hauler by using a passive regen sigil a little while ago. I wasn't able to get all the loot, but I was able to get enough to make the gank worth it and survive a single Gnosis bumping me off the gate and shooting me because I was in a passive tanked sigil, and I was able to sort of elite PvP my way around him to get to the gate. It took like 5 minutes of furious clicking. These days, I prefer a blockade runner. I'm running with a Viator, and I go to a pounce cloaked off the gate that I know the target's gonna be coming through. I gank, and then as soon as I'm done ganking, I'm paying only attention to the Viator. I'm watching the grid to see if there's anything dangerous on that grid, warping directly to the wreck, scooping it, and warping out. Fitting for only the cargo room that I need and putting inertial stabilizers in the rest of it. But you'll see people use all sorts of stuff. I've seen people use Mastodons. I yoinked some guy's loot in my Viator who was using a Mastodon. The deep space transports are a little too slow. If someone else is there ready to go, you'll see Terras, because Terras have a fuck ton of cargo space. It just depends on how safe you feel in the area. If you feel like no one's going to stop you from doing what you want to do, you can use fairly cheap ships. If you feel like it's kind of a high traffic area and you feel like you're in danger, you might need to rethink your hauler choice. Yeah, good question from Twitch chat. If you see someone gank, you could out-loot them. That's exactly what happened. Let me pull up Dotland here. So recently I've been ganking on this pipe here between Eridan and Esakama. I do the ganking part in Ohide, and I've got a scout in Uadale and a scout in Mehetur. So I have 2 jumps worth of warning before I see someone, before someone's going to get to where I have my ganking ship and my hauler. I saw someone that I wanted to gank here. They had a ton of Tech 2 large drones, or heavy drones rather, which was fantastic. It was like 500 mil. I started moving, and as I got here in Odin, I saw that there were a couple of omens set up ready to gank, and I figured, oh, they see the same thing I see. So instead of waiting in Ohide for the ship that was never going to make it there, I started burning my hauler over into Odin on a pounce on the Esakama gate. They ganked it. Their hauler was too slow. I swooped in, grabbed the loot, and left. They were not very happy with me. And again, the thing to keep in mind is when that happens, you get a suspect timer. I stayed cloaked in Odin for the entire suspect timer, even though I probably could have gotten into Ohide and just warped because I'm a cloaky ship. I didn't want to take the risk, so I stayed cloaked in Odin until the suspect timer was out. So that is the tools. Questions on the tools, questions on fits and what they're for. Oh, the thing we didn't talk about, warp core stabilizers. So it used to be, as you can see with this rupture fit, and if you go look at people's previous ganking fits, that fitting 2 points and a sensor booster was the way to go. I've switched to 2 sensor boosters and a point, and the reason for that is that this warp scramble strength is now -2 on the warp core stabilizer. A single point is not going to hold someone down. Even 2 points is not going to hold someone down if they have a warp core stabilizer. So unless I'm willing to sacrifice 3 mid slots for 3 points, if someone has a warp core stabilizer, I can't actually do anything about it. So I just said, screw it. If they have a warp core stabilizer, I'm either going to rely on their slow align time for me to kill them before they even get into warp, or I'm only going to shoot at things that don't have warp core stabilizers. You'll see in my kills, though, that and other people's kills too, that the haulers will often fit warp core stabilizers and die anyway because they just don't align quick enough. So that's the reason for a single point on the Vexor and 2 sensor boosters. Questions about that? Okay, so a lot of you probably guessed this because of what we just talked about and the example I just gave, but the steps are essentially to have your scout out sort of ahead of where you think targets are going to come towards you, right? You're setting a trap, you're waiting for them to come towards you. You're scouting a target, you're ensuring that they have enough cargo to increase the odds of the gank being worth it, right? So we kind of talked about some thresholds, 100 mil, 200 mil. I prefer the 200 mil mark, but if I'm tired of it, I might even go for 100 mil and just say screw it. And then you want to ensure that they're not too well tanked to survive your damage. If you're not sure, just try it. The worst that can happen is you lose your ganking ship, and you're going to lose it anyway. Might as well learn, right? You set up to catch the target, you gank it, you scoop the loot. That is, in a nutshell, the steps to a successful gank. Finally, we'll talk about just a little more about avoiding ganks. We talked about these some, but don't fly what you can't afford to lose. There are people who will gank even if it's not worth it. There are lots and lots of groups that will gank empty freighters just because they're bored and they want to. So don't count on your ship ever coming back safely to station. If you're flying something that you cannot afford to lose, dock it up and do something else. You should never fly what you can't afford to lose. Use courier services. Just pay someone else to take the risk for you. Just assign a proper collateral to the contract, and if they get ganked, you get the collateral. GG. Don't pack a lot into a single ship, especially a T1 hauler. I would set my personal threshold for carrying things in a T1 hauler at somewhere between 80 and 100 mil. If I'm carrying more than that in a T1 hauler, I'm going to rethink my life and probably pick a different ship or use a courier service. And then, like we talked about, the micro warp drive cloak trick. If you don't mind being much more active with your Hisec movement, then the micro warp drive cloak trick is actually a pretty darn good way to avoid ganks. There are ways that people can defeat that, specifically with a good interceptor pilot and a decloak, but 99% of the time, micro warp drive cloak is going to get you through. Questions?
How bad do you feel after a day of doing this?
I don't feel bad. I feel like people have learned a lesson. And if they haven't, that's on them. Cool. This took a little longer than I expected it. Usually I do a fleet after this, but like I said, I don't have time for that tonight. Sorry, guys. Thanks for coming. Hope you guys learned a bit about this. I would be very happy to come back from what I gotta go do next and see some T1 haulers on the kill board or some T1 cruisers because you guys tried and failed, and go try again. Anything last before we adjourn?
I've got 3 accounts. I'm totally going to do this.
Do it. Yeah, at 2 minimum, right? Like I talked about, I used to do this with 2, and I would just the scout and the hauler would play double duty. You can also fit a tornado in such a way that it can have a ship scanner or a cargo scanner on it, and then kind of wrap the scout up into the ganking ship. You can do that too. And then you just need 1 more character for the hauling. You cannot do it alone, unfortunately. If there's only one of you and you only have 1 account, you kind of need a friend, because you can't gank, and then pick up the loot yourself because you'll be criminal, and someone else will most likely get to it before you have a chance to wait out the criminal timer and go scoop the stuff. But yeah, go give it a shot. Thanks for coming, guys.